Buckle up, it's the Insurance Dudes Podcast.
Boom! Gregg!
Welcome to the Insurance Dudes.
Thanks,
we have
guys.
to start with the most important question. What was the first concert you went to? All the way back.
This is a good
Young as
one.
possible.
This is a really good one. So the first concert I ever went to was down at the Hollywood Sportatorium down in Hollywood. And back in those days, I was probably 14. I snuck into a Rush concert with my
Oh,
yeah. It was the 2112 concert back in those days
Nice.
at the Hollywood Sportatorium. That's where I first got the smell of what marijuana smelled like. Because everybody at the concert was high, except for me. I was 14, but
Right.
and then you were.
Was it? So was that
probably
Hollywood?
from the
Yeah.
smoke that's coming from everybody else.
Well, what for those that don't know you or haven't met you, and you've been all over the place in a certain carrier, but how did you get into insurance? What brought you to this world? Why?
How?
So it's a pretty funny story, actually. So I started Scratch in 2007, and the way that I got to this particular industry was, this is no lie, I was out on my boat in the summer of 2007, and I had my kids on the boat. We have a place out here called Peanut Island. So when the tide goes out, it exposes the sandbar, and Craig and I are friends and on Facebook. I think Jason is too, but you guys have probably seen us where the sandbar gets exposed and everybody's just out there having a good time with dogs and drinks, and we have a good time out there. So it gets pretty busy out there. So my son went out and was walking around the island, and I guess ran into this other this kid that was on a little life raft that had like a cow on it, and they were riding this life raft with the cow around, and this dad was pulling it around. So my one son jumped on there. They became very friendly with the kids. The dad came over and had a beer and said, "Hey, my name is Lance," and blah 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 blah. Nice to meet you. Long story short, I met his wife, who's Trish, who happens to be a captive agent in my business. And long story short, we got along really, really well. We became very, very good friends. We went into an awards seminar out in over at the Cove in the Bahamas, and they just so happened, I was celebrating my anniversary, and they just so happened to have one of those award ceremonies out at the Cove in the Bahamas. And these guys were in the pool, and I'm rolling up on some of these guys. Iggy was there, and Domingo was there. So all these cats are inside this pool sporting these cool watches and those Miami Prada glasses. And I'm like, man, I'm like, these guys are rolling. What do these guys do? So Trish was kind of telling me that they're in the insurance business and they're agents. And, my mom had worked for State Farm for 28 years. And, I knew about the insurance business, but I didn't want to be a guy that, was in his khakis all day long, not ever going to work playing golf. That wasn't me. So I'm kind of more of a high adrenaline junkie. So kind of fast forward, my friend Trish said, "Hey, you should get involved in the insurance business. I've got this recruiter I should have you talk to. She's going to show you the plan," right? Just like when somebody in the old days wants to show you the Amway plan, you get a little nervous, right?
Yeah.
Right? They're going to sit you down. I got a plan. Come to one of these events, right? So she basically set up a meeting with one of these managers, and she actually told me the plan, said this was a great opportunity, and said you need to fill out this particular application, and we'll see if we can bring you on. 60 days later, I took my 215 license, and I took my 220 license, and in literally 60 days, I got both of those licenses, and I was open 30 days after that. So that's kind of how I got into the insurance business really, really quickly.
What were you doing before that?
So I had just sold my real estate business at the time. I had 7 real estate offices with my brother. We had a franchise out of Reno, Nevada called Assist to Sell. And that was a franchise product. There was over 900 locations. And at that time in the real estate business, you could throw a sign, in the yard and sell a house. You guys probably remember that. Phoenix was a pretty hotbed out there in California. Some of the warmer climates were just, you have multiple offers on property. And it was in the heyday, like 2000 to 2005. And I was in the real estate business, and we did really, really well. I had sold, my part of the business to a competitor. Took some time off. My mom, unfortunately, had passed away in 2006 of Lou Gehrig's disease, and I needed to kind of clear my head. I went through a divorce, and just really was trying to find my path. And if it wasn't for the fact that my mom had left me some funds through her life insurance policy, I wouldn't be sitting here as an agency owner of 4 offices today, because, a portion of that money went into bankrolling this business that has been very, very good to me and my family. So I kind of indirectly got into the insurance business, but that's kind of how I got in the insurance business directly, was, meeting this particular agent, who's a very, very close friend of mine, who's a very successful, agency owner. She kind of got me into the business in 2007. I basically started from scratch.
Wow. So you started with 1 office from scratch, months after even considering it, right?
Yep.
So what was take me through, I love the first year stories, because we all have just those pains and like, what the hell am I doing? Right.
Oh my God. It was a complete train wreck. And my particular captive, their educational system was so, I would say, outdated at the time.
Was?
A little outdated. So I went through the entire process, and they told me I need to do this, this, and this with all these different types of marketing, programs. And I thought to myself, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So for the first 10 months, I kind of ran my agency by myself for the first 10 months with no employees. I didn't have any employees. I didn't have, number one, the money to fund in employees, and I had no idea what I was doing. And at that time, we were on an enhanced commission program. It was a different type of program than it is today. But I think I sold 12 auto items in 4 months. That's all I sold.
Ooh, lighten it up.
Killing it.
Just killing it.
I had no clue.
They're really happy. My 12 customers are just
Yeah, I mean,
so
I sold
happy.
12 auto policies, but literally the first day that I was open, I had an English woman come into my office and say, hey, you sold insurance. I need to buy a condo policy, but it's a seasonal residence for me. I'm only there 3 months out of the year. Now, you guys got to understand, in Florida, we have 15 different carriers that we write through, and we have a myriad of things that we go through to try to be able to even write a freaking policy. Right. And because we're in the wind pool and you have to deal with the fair plan, I had to write it through 2 separate carriers. I'm trying to call my captive. Obviously, they can't help me because, well, we can't help you because that's not our product. So It was a complete train wreck, guys. I mean, as bad as bad could be is how kind of I started my first day in the business.
When was the aha moment, when you went from selling 12 items in 4 months to start actually cranking?
So I remember calls would come into my cell phone, and I would, be in my car and, try to take the information down to do a quote. But all I was doing in the first literally 4 months was getting outside the office and knocking on doors and going to every single real estate function I could go to, meeting, MLS, lunch and learn, everything that I could do to educate myself, because agents in my captive, they weren't going to share anything with me at all. I mean,
wow.
I would call these other agents up and say, hey, I'm new on the block and I'm struggling with this. And they're like, sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. Maybe try, direct mail like the company says, or cold call. So in those days, I mean, nobody was willing to help me. So I had to kind of figure it all out, on my own. And it was a very, very hard time for me. But I think the resilience that I built, just like you hear when people that come up, they're from the projects or a broken home, that grit mentality. I knew that I could sell anything to everybody, and I had the gift of gab. So I knew if I kind of just stayed the course with that, things would kind of turn over. And then in my 10th month, I finally hired my first employee. And my first employee came from actually the gal who got me into the business that said, hey, listen, I got an application from this gal. She has some experience with State Farm, but I can't put her on right now because I'm too full of people. So I took her, and she is the one that kind of helped shape my business for the next 10 years after that, because she knew more about insurance than I could possibly ever know. And she had 2 years of experience. So I didn't know, my ass from my elbow then.
Right. And how quickly did you realize that, okay, I need to get people in here, because if I keep doing this myself, I'm going to go crazy?
So once I could afford to bring an employee on, and I saw what happened in 30 days from having a process in place with another individual, that I thought to myself, okay, I literally had her screen to screen right across from me, like you and I are looking at in front of me. she didn't know how to sell, but she sure could, service and knew the language. So I knew that if I could teach her how to sell, like all the things I've sold throughout my lifetime, and give her the gift of gab through a transfer of influence and coach her right in front of me, I knew I could replicate myself every 30 days. So after I had her, literally 30 days after that, I put 3 more associates on, and we were 4 strong for the next probably 2.5 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
What were some of the hardest struggles that you've had throughout the last 13 years that you've been doing this?
Probably the top of my list is trying to understand that the people that work for me are never going to want it as much as I want it for them as they want it for themselves. You know what I mean? So
totally.
I want it for these people more than they want it for themselves. And
yes,
I think that's the biggest struggle. I think all of us have the same talent pool, problems that we always have. From me to you guys and everybody that's listening, I don't know if I can count on one hand the people I have on my sales department have been here more than 3 years. They're like a running back. It's like getting Emmitt Smith and letting that guy run for you for 6 years, then you burn him out. That's the reality of our situation. And my longest tenured employees are my sales manager, my operations manager, and my customer service manager. Their tenure has been with me on average of 9 years. So it's hard to find that good talent and get people to buy into what you do. Because let's face it, a lot of people don't think insurance is exciting, right? Mm-hmm. It's not Gary Vee and it's not Grant Cardone, it's insurance. You're selling vaporware, so it's hard to be able to get people excited about those times things. But you can see right now what's going on in our business, the residual factor. You couldn't take me out of this place tomorrow if you asked me to, or gave me, a 4-time multiple, because the 4 times multiple is great, but this is a legacy business that I hope to bring in, my kids, so they can finally try what they want to do. And they say, Dad's got a pretty good gig. It's residual. No matter what happens with us, the competition, everybody's in the same stream. There's never going to be a replacement for people that want to do business with each other. And that's why I think the insurance business is such a great business. But the talent, the hiring is the most, difficult part of our business.
Yes. So Gregg, what would be the number one piece of advice you'd give anybody coming into the insurance agency? The number one.
So let me ask you a question and clarify that. The number one is the agency owner, or for somebody that's going to come and work into the insurance agency as an employee?
I would say agency owner.
You need to find a mentor, and you need to be coachable, right? And have some humility, because there is so much to learn, and there's so many people out there that are willing to share. You have to be able to get into a system that you can replicate and follow what these people that train say. Because if I would have had, those mentors in my life and the training platform and access to all of these modules and coaching and call recording, dude, my business would be $40 million right now instead of $26 million,
Love it.
Thank you so much for coming on. This is great.
Well, guys, thanks for having me on. I very much appreciate it. You guys ever get down to South Florida, you let me know. We'll take a cruise down the Intercoastal right there and head out to the
sandbar.
Yes.
Oh, over there.
To go see the lighthouse. All right. All right, Gregg.
All right, guys.
Thanks, man.
Thanks so much, Gregg.
Stay safe.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Hey, you've got to check out the Insurance Dudes Inner Circle coming soon, where you get extended interviews as well as live coffee talks in our private Facebook group. Join the mailing list today at theinsurancedudespodcast.com. Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.